Well, that's look. So now we're gonna go. This is a perfect episode to segue into. Dump it into someone's food. That's where it's gonna go. We have Aaron Edwards, 6 months on beef. So let's see what happens when you basically cook for yourself. Hopefully this man cooks for himself. Please tell me he cooks for himself.
It's a special day.
So this is carnivore diet results, and then I'll juxtaposition with what it was like for me when I was vegan, and also when I went carnivore, full carnivore as well. Let's see.
Today is 6 months to the day since I renounced my plant-munching past in favor of eating all the meat I could get my hands on. This is what happened.
Holy shit. Oh, wow, dude. This is him on his vegan diet. 110 pounds. He looks way better on just diet. Wow.
And I achieved this monstrous transformation eating virtually nothing but beef for the last 6 months. And I have never been so satisfied in my entire life. Okay, but fancy videos aside, let's get to it, all right? I've been eating a carnivore diet for 6 months now, and it's entirely revolutionized my life. I have, well, you saw the video. I went from a very bad state to feeling better than I have in years. And in this video, I want to talk about it. I want to cover all the different nuances, you know, talk about some of the different pros and cons I've experienced, share some of the context of how I maneuvered this diet for 6 months, talk about the improvements I've noticed physically, mentally, spiritually. I'm going to share my blood work. I have some, you know, black and white facts of the
Wow.
physiological changes that have occurred in
Doubled his testosterone. There you go.
my body, as well as I think just answer some of the frequently asked questions that I get. So that's what you're gonna get in this video. And I wanna preface that I'm gonna try and be as objective as possible in the sense that, I mean, when I was about a month in, I was just so stoked. I was finally feeling some vitality in my body for the first time ever.
Thanks,
and I put out a video, got a lot of views, but I almost feel like I was coming across in it like as if I was trying to sell it to you, like, you need to do this. And while, as you can probably guess, I am very in favor, I think this is a biologically
And Miss Firo, your body makes testosterone from cholesterol. They never mention it. They never do, brother. They never do. Thanks again, David.
appropriate diet for humans. Do I think you're gonna go to hell if you eat a vegetable? Absolutely not. Do I believe that humans are hypercarnivores and that if we get most of our calories from meat-based sources, we will be healthiest? Yes, I do believe it. However, you're welcome to disagree, but nonetheless, this is my experience. So,
Eat meat, eat fruits. Everything else should be a distant second to that. Meat and fruits. Meat and fruits. You should be eating meat and fruits. Veggies, legumes, all that shit is a distant second. Your body rejects them anyway. Kids hate vegetables from the get-go. They crave fruits and they crave meat. That's what we naturally want to be eating. And you would avoid a ton of problems that way.
where to start? I think it makes sense to start at the beginning and to provide you guys with a little bit of context as to what brought me to that emaciated figure that you guys saw at the start of this video. So I've recorded videos about the whole degeneration of my body and what led me to that rock bottom. I'll link something above, but the brief version is this.
Yeah, dude, that's my all-time favorite meal, and that's steak, eggs, berries. Fuck, is that not the greatest meal ever? As far as carbs go, guys, essentially what you want to do is eat carbs in the amount of your turnover for the day. So for example, if you're burning every day 400 grams worth of carbs, you should strive to be eating around 400 grams of carbs. Eat the carbs for the day and you will feel really good. Carbs are the immediate fuel source your body prefers to use in the moment and during explosive, exercises. But you should be only eating them for that day. People are overeating carbs is what the issue is. People are eating carbs for the fucking week, dude. You're stuffing your gullet with a huge ass pizza that could power your body for the next 4 days. And then you keep doing it every day and you're not burning it. And then it gets stored as fat. And then they're like, why the fuck do I feel like shit? Why do I have brain fog? Why can't I remember anything? Why am I getting bad sleep? Why is my skin looking like shit? Because you're eating like shit. What the carnivore diet does to people is essentially forces you to not only just eat clean because it's so limiting, but two, it stops you from absolutely overeating carbs because there are no carbs on the carnivore diet. You're switching into ketosis. Your body's learning to use a more longer, stable form of energy, keto. So you're going to either drop a lot of weight or completely see a body comp change like he did. I recommend everybody try it at least once. I did, and I started to see what my body prefers. And then you start to reintroduce carbs. I did 6 months of pure carnivore, straight up, nothing but steaks. And when I first got a pack of raspberries, I could not believe how insulin sensitive I was. It was like electricity was running through my veins. The amount of energy just a small bowl of raspberries gave me compared to everybody today where they're so stuffed with carbs and they're so dulled. Their insulin sensitivity is non-existent. They're practically pre-diabetics walking around. It's wild, man. You could eat carbs. You could eat a bowl of fruit and feel nothing. But all you feel is tired. Like, I just ate a ton of food. Why am I so sleepy? Yeah, that's your insulin sensitivity.
Better part of the last decade, I was really unwell. I suffered with really bad gut inflammation disease. I basically had diarrhea. I had diarrhea every day for about 6 years.
That's one thing that you'll experience going to carnivore diet because you're not filling your stomach up with absolute trash like fibers that are not ever digested. You will have diarrhea in the beginning. I did. Of just going straight to pure meat, especially when you start cooking in tallow. So you start to eat super fatty and your body just is going through a process of getting used to digesting that. Once you get past the period of having diarrhea and irregular bowel movements, it becomes extremely regular and extremely efficient. Like you're not going to be pooping all day 3 times a day anymore because your body's utilizing all the meat you're eating. And when you do, you get absolutely like perfections. Perfect. Nothing when you wipe. And by the way, bloating goes away completely. You'll never have a problem with bloating either when you're eating on this carnivore diet, simply because of, again, your body's used to, you're going to be feeding your body one sort of food. Bloating usually comes from eating a lot of different things all at once. You're mixing too many different types of foods, and then that causes gases and incontinence and all this stuff in your body, in your stomach specifically. And, people have sometimes immune sensitivities to certain foods that they don't even know they do, and you get gas and bloat and all this stuff. Yeah.
Then when my whole body collapsed, I tried plant-based styles of eating to hopefully give my body, I thought that would heal me. It didn't. It just malnourished.
And then someone says, anyone who tells you not to eat quality vegetables as part of a balanced lifestyle shouldn't be giving advice on nutrition. Micronutrients are a thing. And that's basically what an NPC sounds like because vegetables are some of the worst for micronutrients. The absorption rate of vegetables is absolute trash. You need to eat them by the pounds to get the similar amount of micronutrients you could get from like a couple ounces of liver or muscle meat. It's like eating vegetables for their equivalent in meat is an absolute joke when it comes to micronutrients. That's what an NPC sounds like who's been sold the shit by the FDA. That's not regulated at all. The revolving door. Yeah.
Pushed me further. And in that, I did like a raw till 4 for a couple years with a few fully raw months, like just eating papayas and bananas. And then I tried a fully raw vegan for about 6 months. None of this stuff worked. These things only work in the way that they remove problematic foods from your diet. I'm gonna make a video in the near future about why I believe veganism failed me so bad, because some people do seem to do all right on it. People are always like, no matter how you do a vegan diet, people go, oh, you didn't do it right. So I'm gonna address that in a future video. But for now, let's just say I was in a bad place 6 months ago. Just before I started this carnivore diet, the one thing I did that was incredible, which also led me to be so skinny, was I did a 22-day water fast. And that was by far the best thing I've ever done for my health.
What?
It's incredible, the chance for your body.
I do not recommend a 22-day water fast at all, by the way. Fuck that, dude. Just jump into the carnivore diet. If you want to fast, more than 3 days is not needed, honestly. I mean, fasting has its benefits, Ramadan, all that stuff. There's a reason all religions told people to fast. It does clean your body out. Autophagy, is that what it was called again? Where all your weakest cells are essentially destroyed by the body and only the strong ones are left. So yeah, there's like scientifically, there's a slew of studies that show how good fasting is, but fasting for multiple days like this, not really needed. 22 is very extreme.
To just rest, cell autophagy, the release of stem cells. You just literally lay there and your body does what it needs to do to heal. But this video is not about water fasting, but that is where I was. I had been malnourished for nearly a decade. A lot of it from GI issues, and then following that plus plant-based malnutrition, and then a water fast, and then I'm finally starting eating a nutrient-dense diet. And that's kind of how I came into this. So when I started, I just ate everything. A lot of beef, butter, eggs, some fish, some oysters. I know it's not really carnivore, but I even drank a bit of milk for the first few weeks. No, first like 2 weeks. But then very quickly, it was just my preference. I just started eating beef. I literally just ate beef all day, every day. And my diet, in terms of how much I ate, changed so much in the course of that time. In the first few months, I was eating upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 calories every day. I would sit down and eat 3-4 pounds of ground beef, and then with, some of it cooked with lard. And then I would literally go to the fridge and eat spoonfuls of lard. My body wanted fat, animal fat, so much. I'd been depriving myself of these nutrients I was vegan for probably around 4 or 5 years. Combined with poor digestion, I was not absorbing any nutrition. And so, yeah, I went nuts for the first few months. And then it kind of died down. And now I'm 6 months in, and I probably only eat less than 2 pounds of beef every day. And I eat, initially my macros were around like 90-10, even 95-5. Given like all the butter and lard I would eat. Everything was coming from fat. And now it's much lower. It's like 70-30. I feel like my body's finally found like a bit of an equilibrium. It's finally gotten back to that natural threshold. Okay, we're comfortable here, and we don't need to eat like we're starving anymore. So yeah, that's the context. That's what led me here. And this is where I am now. So before we dive into perhaps the most exciting part of this video, the physical and mental benefits that I've experienced, of which there are many, I want to first go over my blood work, all right? The hard, black and white, measurable changes in my physiology, okay? And so in the last few years, I've had a good variety of blood tests done, given that I was always in really poor health. And I was like, come on, doctor, help me, what is wrong? Of which never really amounted to anything. But subsequently, I have these tests over the last few years. And then I also have a recent blood test that I've gotten done. However, this recent one, technically it wasn't that recent. It's not at the 6-month mark of my carnivore journey. It's at the 4-month mark. It was taken 2 months ago. And I didn't get another one because I'm living in Bali, Indonesia right now, and it costs a bit of money. Like I wanted to get sex hormone binding globulin. I didn't get it because that one test was going to be $150. So I've been a little bit sparing, but I think I've got some really important ones done, and I can see some incredible benefits. So let's dive in. Starting with hemoglobin, hematocrit, and erythrocytes. I'm not going to dive into all the different numbers and stuff here, but it would suffice to say that these have all been below the reference range for many years, and now they're good. We're starting on a good foot here. Iron, I'm not going to go over because I can bring it up. Like everything is fine in my iron panel, but it's always kind of been fine, perhaps surprisingly. Now, where I noticed an incredible benefit is in my lipid panel. And perhaps this is obvious because I'm actually consuming cholesterol again, but the changes here have been incredible. So now bear in mind that this test I'm comparing it to was done 3 years ago in 2020. It's the only test that I had in the past where I actually measured my cholesterol because, being young, doctors don't really think a young man needs to do that, perhaps, I guess, or it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, the foods that I'm eating most now is I found like artisanal goat milk with the fat non-homogenized. I'm absolutely in love with that. I put it in my protein shakes. I drink it just raw by itself, you know, with nothing else. Mix it in with my coffee. Heavy cream also, mix it in with my coffee. Meat is pretty much beef and chicken. I have an air fryer now for my chicken to get them crispy every time, and I lather them up in, I have ghee, and I found tallow recently as well. That's really high quality. Haven't had to order it yet, but I will. And that's essentially it, man. Eggs, a ton of eggs, because the eggs out here are absolutely amazing. They still have feathers and dirt on them, so I know they're legit. That's it for the most part, dude. I don't really need anything else. Honey, I love my honey. And then a cheat code if you need carbs. If you're struggling to get carbs, rice cakes. It's processed. I know it's shit and who knows how they make it, but that's been my go-to in the past if I needed it. Now I just use fruits mostly. A ton of fruits that I need, carby fruits, bananas, they're really good, and honey, man. And that's it. Why not rice? That's a good question. I mean, you could make fresh rice if you wanted. Plain, white would do it. It's easy on the stomach. They usually recommend it to people with autoimmune issues or food sensitivities. But oats are garbage. Oatmeal is shit. Yeah, I stick to meat and fruits as much as possible.
Given the symptoms I had, but we can see in that first test, my cholesterol was like hella low, scary low. So look, if I bring up the numbers, my total cholesterol has gone from 30 milligrams per deciliter to 148.
Let's look at these numbers. Damn.
Wow. LDL was sitting around 8, bumped up to 80. And I know that's considered the bad cholesterol, but you do need some of it. Trust me. And as you know, if you know anything about a carnivore diet and you're watching this video, you probably do know that the metrics around cholesterol are not incredibly accurate, as we've seen through a lot of different examples of cardiovascular health, but that's for another video. HDL went from 13 to 52. Whew. And my triglycerides tripled from 20 up to 65. So basically, and you guys can look at all the different reference ranges. Basically, I went from 3 years ago and likely the majority of the last 3 years, very low below. Like these thresholds are interesting because the optimal level doesn't give you a range. It doesn't give you a minimum. It just says below this. But I think it's safe to say that mine were incredibly low. And we can see in a sec how these cholesterol levels were affecting my thyroid, affecting my testosterone.
For people asking about breads and pasta and all that shit, you got to think of it like this, man. Back in the days, like the reason we make bread, the reason people eat potatoes and shit like that, it's for poor people. It's to feed poor populations. Like nobody with any money in the history of humanity buys fucking bread, buys potatoes and all this shit. They eat meat. They eat fruits. They eat honey. That's what they're eating. Everything else was like feast or famine level mentality. Like during hard times, winter and shit, you busted out the fucking bread. You busted out the potatoes. You busted out the shit that has very little in terms of micronutrients, not nutritious food. That shit is for poor people to stay alive during hard times, which most of the time was hard for poor people because they're poor. Why the fuck would you want to eat a tuber when you have money and you could afford meat? Makes no sense. I'm just being real. Give me fruits. Give me heat. Give me meat, dude. I'm not trying to eat fucking bread.
My hormonal balances, right? So yeah, that brings me to testosterone. So I had
same shit with oats and rice and all that other shit. It's the same thing. Grains are fed to animals to fatten them up right before the slaughter. Why the fuck would you as a human being eat grains? What in the world, dude? Oh my God.
I had this checked twice in the last couple years, both 2 years ago and a year and a half ago. And in both cases, it was low. It was at 304 nanograms per deciliter and then dropped down to 262, right? These are low. I think the reference range says something like 300 to 1,000. Is that right? And I think that's generous. Like as a man, testosterone is almost your metric of being a man to some degree. It gives you, it deepens your voice. It allows your muscles to adapt and hypertrophy more easily. Like testosterone is important, okay? And now my level is sitting at 624. And remember, this was 2 months ago as well. So I would extrapolate that to say it's probably well over 700 at this point. It over doubled compared to where it was sitting in the last few years. All right, now I did get a few more tests done, but for fear of boring you to death, I think let's move on to the real meat of the video. So now let's talk about the physical changes I noticed in my body. And right away, right off the bat, I need to say, in the first, I had a little keto flu for a week or two. It took my body a little bit of time to adapt. I was eating a bit more fruit and stuff just before it. I felt, and I say felt, so give me a sec. I felt incredible. I had more energy, vitality than I had had in years. I was waking up and I was like, I want to get out of bed.
When I was doing the whole vegan thing and I was meal prepping and eating a week ahead, I was heavy on the tofu, heavy on the soy, heavy on the seitan. I loved Beyond Burgers. I was doing everything I could to stick to that vegan diet, and I was eating hard on quinoa. Rice, quinoa, and a ton of veggies, dude. I had like a rainbow colored plate. I was going in. I would love to have my oats with chocolate in the morning and my oat milk or whatever the fuck I was trying to eat. And it was garbage, dude. I was gaining weight. As the heaviest I ever weighed, like 220 something pounds, but horrendous. I was feeling like shit. No energy. Skin was starting to look like shit. Body was just breaking down on me. And it felt great in the beginning. Like everybody reports like, wow, dude. On top of that, mentally you're like zoned in, ready to go. Fuck yeah, I'm taking control of my diet. I'm eating so healthy. This is going to be amazing for me. And coming off the standard American diet, like when you eliminate bread, pasta, ton of sugar, just by nature of eating vegan, obviously you're going to feel good, but in the long term, you start to feel like shit. You're not getting the right micronutrients. And I was doing everything to the T. I had my supplements, everything. I don't half-ass anything I do. And still started feeling like shit. Still something was off. And this was months into the diet. It's not like you feel this right away. It takes a while for you to start adjusting and understanding how your body works under this kind of diet. And it's absolute dog shit. And everybody that has ever done the vegan thing that I've spoken to says the same thing. It's a dog shit diet I bought into because of probably some documentary they watched or convinced by some friends, or they were just misinformed in general. And then they go back into eating meat or reintroducing meat. And then they start to feel amazing again. How many vegan influencers were caught eating meat or had started having problems, women especially, with what was it? Their periods were becoming irregular, weren't getting periods at all, or started cramping really bad, or other issues that were, essentially, I could say, unique to women. Men had their own issues that they were dealing with that were unique to men, but it was most pronounced in women because they have cycles and it would screw up their cycles. And when they started eating meat again, all of a sudden their hormonal profile and their cycle started becoming regular again. So this shit is garbage, dude. Veganism is a garbage fucking diet. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't give a fuck what the science says about veganism, and I'm not eating fucking vegetables. I don't have a fourth fucking chamber in my stomach like a cow to help me digest all these hard plant fibers to extract the small amounts of micronutrients that a plant fucking has anyway. No thanks, bro. We've been hunting animals. I'm gonna fucking eat meat.
As opposed to many years where I was like, oh, I gotta pry myself up with my arms, So it was incredible. And I say it was because it did dwindle. So for the first 4 months, I think when my body was in that growth stage, I was on top of the moon. I was working out, surfing, running. I used to just drive the scooter and have my dog run on the side. And I was
Someone asked me how tall I am. I'm 6'2".
Able to finally run with my dog. I have the best dog in the world, guys, and he's just sitting over there sleeping. I just felt incredible. It's kind of cheesy and sounds.
The healthiest meat, for people asking what kinds of meat, you need to be eating ruminating animals first and foremost, which is beef is one of them. Think like goats. Think. Anyways, ruminating animals. Sorry, I got distracted by someone in the chat. But essentially, they have the extra chamber in their stomach. What tends to happen is that if they eat pesticide-laced food, the extra chamber in their stomach helps them pass that through their gut and excrete it, unlike, say, chickens or pigs or any other type of meat that you could be eating. Even fish is laced with heavy metals, but non-ruminating animals tend to store pesticides from their environment that they're exposed to in their fat, in the meat. So when you eat those, you're uptaking, kind of like how a big fish is very concentrated with heavy metals because it eats smaller fish that are laced with heavy metals, which is eating an even smaller fish. laced with some heavy metals and it concentrates up the food chain. That tends to happen to non-ruminating animals too, which is what's happening to you. So you're concentrating your body by eating that kind of meat over and over and over again. So this is why they recommend animals with specialized chambers in their stomach that helps them pass these poisons out. So yeah, I recommend things like bison, any type of deer, goats, and sheep. Amazing meat.
That I just felt like I was dead before that and I finally have my life back. But it did kind of hit a wall. About a month or two ago, I've noticed a decline in my overall energy. And this seems to have correlated with my maxing out my body weight. So I went from about 110 pounds up to 150. Like that's the transformation you guys saw at the start of this video, or that I can probably bring in right now, 110 to 150. But it seems that once my body hit that maximum weight, my energy started to decline. And my theory around this is not that all of a sudden a carnivore diet isn't optimal. I still believe it is. Sorry to disappoint you guys. But I believe that my body is saying it's time to do another water fast, because I know there's still dysfunction within my system. So speaking to that as well, my digestion in the first 3-4 months was also incredible. And like I said, I had diarrhea for 6 years straight, every single day of my life. The fast helped incredibly. And then moving into a natural, a food selection that is natural for me as a human, my digestion has been really, really good. But like the same as the energy at the 5-6 month mark, it just hasn't been as optimal. And the only thing I can think is that it is because my body is ready to lay down, rest again, and keep fixing the dysfunctions that I encouraged for those 5 or 6, 7 years that I just lived my life with diarrhea forever. So that's been the main physical benefit. Now, while increased energy has been an incredible blessing, and all these things are obviously intrinsically
I wonder how tied this is to voting too. I don't want to take it way off course here, but liberal men typically eat these vegan or veggie heavy diets. They're also in that cult of eating, this kind of lifestyle, probably pushed by their girlfriends because they have no spine. So then they also have very low test and very low libido and all these problems that are associated with eating like this.
Tied together. I would say the single phenomena that excites me the most of all the changes in my body is my renewed libido, which has absolutely skyrocketed.
Hard-ons
right?
now.
And I'm not going to go into incredible detail here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I guess let's just say for the last few years, things didn't work so well. And now they do. And
someone said we're omnivores. Eat accordingly. Meat, veggies, fruits. Just curious, what veggies do we eat as omnivores naturally in nature? Like, what are we chewing on here? Just curious that you don't process with fire. Can anybody give me vegetables that we search for naturally? I know we use plants for medicine. I know plants are used for medicine. Like we mix roots, we mix leaves, we mix parts of plants to make actual medicine. But that's not a food. Cucumbers, that's a fruit. They have seeds. So again, a lot of the stuff people are meant like leafy greens. Like what human being, again, guys, think about it this naturally, like hunter-gatherer. What fucking human goes and eats a leaf as opposed to a fruit or a part of an animal or honey? Think about it. Someone fucking said corn. You can't eat corn without processing it. Shit is crazy, dude. Think about it. Like a tree or a plant evolved fruits, a fruiting thing specifically for animals to eat, to pass in poop, to grow the next plant, right? Now, what do you think that plant thinks, or that rooting bush, about you eating its leaves or its roots or any other part that's not fruiting? Do you think it would evolve some defensive chemicals to stop animals from killing it?
This goes so much further than just sex, right? Like a man's libido is his life force. It's his energy. It's his will to live in many ways. And if I reflect on those last few years, there were some really dark times where I just had no will to be alive. And now I feel like I finally have some gumption, some tenacity back in my step. I feel like I have an edge. I feel like a man, and it feels good. Now, there have been a bunch more, and I'm just going to list them off to you. So I used to get these histamine rashes on my arm whenever I ate food. After a meal, I would get these lumps I don't get those anymore. My hair is growing back thicker. It was getting really thin. I had long hair before, but it was very thin for
Balding bros might want to try the carnivore diet.
those last few plant-based years. My gums, this has been a huge factor. If you look at my teeth, I have nice teeth. I don't mind saying it. I've never had braces. I was born and developed good teeth, and I take a lot of pride in them. But when I was eating plants, I ended up, I guess, having a lot of acidity in my diet. And some evenings I'd be brushing my teeth and my gums would have receded so far that I would get into the root. Oh, it was painful. And I was really concerned. I was like, geez, I'm 30 years old and my teeth are already degenerating. I'm happy to say that's completely gone. I can brush my teeth as hard as I want. Not that I do that, but I brush my teeth and my gums have fully come back. My teeth are very healthy. So that's another benefit. What else? I don't wake up a million times to pee in the night. I guess because fruits and vegetables, they allow you to retain so much water that your kidneys at 4 a.m, 2 a.m. are still doing some stuff, forcing you to get up, go pee. I can sleep through the whole night now. And sleep is, it's imperative to our good health. So that's been really nice. Injury healing. I'm finding any injuries in my body are healing now that they have the adequate nourishment to do so. I had this injury in my foot in the fascia from running, and it lasted nearly a year on my kind of plant-based, mostly fruit-based diet. And then within a month of eating carnivore, all better. So that's been good. And the last one I have on my list is I feel hydrated, but not from water, but from fat. Like I heard this term delipidated, like there's dehydrated or perhaps delipidated. So living here in Bali, most nights I have to use AC or else I just don't sleep very well. And AC notoriously dries out the air. And I used to get really dry toes every night. And I couldn't stand it. I don't get that anymore. My toes are adequately moist. And it's very nice. There's probably something I'm forgetting on that list, but overall, my overall physical
your skin isn't as dry. Like when you eat that much fat, but also if you just use tallow on your skin, you're gonna be moisturized throughout the day. It's another thing, dude. It's crazy, man, and people react differently. And these changes, they happen pretty fast. If you can survive the first month, within the next few, like 2 to 4 months, the changes are dramatic that you start to see. Like your skin, your hair, your nails, mental clarity, your sleep quality, energy throughout the day. No longer have that dip, like when you eat heavy carbs, you're probably hungry again in a few hours. That's what carbs do. They make you hungry again in a few hours. If you eat nothing but meat and especially tons of fat with that, you have energy all day. You most likely will transition into like a 1 to 2 meal kind of person. You no longer need 3 meals, 4 meals plus snacking. You could eat one big ass meal of steak and be good for the day. But not only for the day, never have that like downturn in, I need my coffee. I need a fucking Red Bull. None of that shit, dude. You're ready to rock. And it's such a nice feeling. Holy hell. I don't think people understand. We're so used to the way we eat from childhood that we don't understand the way we're supposed to eat. And we don't even know what we're missing. We're so misinformed, dude. It's crazy. Like until you try this diet out for yourself to the T and you see how your body reacts, probably shouldn't even try to insert an opinion on it. Just give it a try. Forget all your preconceived notions. Honestly, go in with an open mind. Just eat like this for 6 months. See where it takes you. Then you can reintroduce stuff. I think the perfect diet is meat and fruits. That simple. Don't give a fuck about grains, legumes, or veggies. They're not needed. I think you can get by on meat and fruits. And like I said, honey. Fucking A, dude. Nature's best treat. Nothing beats honey. And when you do it right with a ton of fruit and a ton of meat with the right amount of fat mixed in, I think that's like the most species appropriate diet you could possibly have. I don't see how, hundreds of years of farming, thousands of years of farming, GMO, almost every vegetable is like fucking GMO these days. I mean, corn, for example, doesn't look like wild corn used to look like. Wheat, like wild wheat. I mean, we've been planting this shit and messing with the genetics for the longest time ever to get things to look the way they look. Try to eat the most natural version of the food you possibly can. That's probably just an overarching thing that you could be healthy in this manner. Just eat the most natural form of a food. If you see a store that has giant fucking strawberries, just know, hey man, those are probably not the ones you want to eat. Go to the local farmer's market, eat the ones that look tiny and all fucking weird. They're shaped weird because they grew naturally that way, and you'll be good to go. Honey, same shit. Get the local stuff from the local plants, the local trees, the local fauna. You know what I mean? Where they're interacting with the most natural form of plants and fucking that honey that has the, what is it? Propolis? What is that thing called? I don't know what it's called in English. Not only when you get the wax inside, but there's this other thing, this byproduct that bees produce. If you can find that real natural raw, and get dark honey too. Don't get the light gold colored stuff. Try to get the darkest honey you can. Propolis, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, dude, my honey has that. I believe it's called let's look this shit up, actually. I swear it's called propolis. At least that's what it is in, it's called propolis or bee glue. Resinous mixture that honeybees produce by mixing saliva and beeswax. Okay, cool. Yeah. So this stuff has like unique properties and it's extremely healthy for you. Try to get honey in its most like natural form with all this stuff in here. Don't get honey that's been processed. Fuck yeah. And so what do you eat? GP, what do you eat honey with? Meat, bro. You want to know the best thing? I blew my friends' minds away when we went hiking. I busted out cuts of meat. Think dried meat as well if you wanted to do dried meat. Sprinkle honey on your steak, boys. Instead of salt and pepper, sprinkle that shit on your steak. You ever had honey sprinkled steak? I'm about to put you on. Oh my God, it's like eating candy, but also your favorite food, steak, at the same time. Oh, I love drizzling honey all over my steak, dude. It's the best. It's like crack. I could eat that shit all day. I sprinkled that, handed some like dried meat to my friend with honey that raw honey, you could scoop it out of this little can I brought. Blown away. Mine was blown. Nobody ever thought of mixing honey and meat. Like, holy shit, dude. I'm putting you boys on.
Vitality. I mean, you can see physically I got bigger, stronger. I just improved in a whole.
Again, another one that's lost. So I could see your point for powerlifters or fighters. No, you're right. Carbs for endurance sports. I mean, people do them, but yeah, some of the best ultra marathon runners are on basically keto. Like that one dude, he's a small guy, forgot his name, but he eats one steak before his ultra marathon and that's it. He doesn't have to constantly like suck on those carb drinks or gels. Yeah, but you're right.
List of ways, right? That's physical. Now let's talk about the mental improvements.
Zach Bitter. Yeah, Zach Bitter is his name. Look him up, dude. Oh, he runs his ultra marathons on straight up meat. And he was one of the earlier ones that figured out like, hey, constantly having to suck down these carb drinks just to maintain energy levels isn't ideal. So he switches into straight up fucking fat for long energy because you don't need carbs to run endurance. Like it's endurance. You need long, slow energy. Carbs are for explosive, short-term stuff.
The one that comes to mind first is I would say my just general, cognition has been overall enhanced. I find I'm able to articulate my sentences better as though my brain is literally just functioning at a greater capacity. And perhaps this is because when you run on keto.
Ben said, moved across country for a new job and started buying meat from a butcher instead of Walmart. Tastes night and day. Of course it'll taste night and day, man. That butcher's reputation relies on his quality of cut. Like you're not gonna get the garbage that they serve over at Walmart. A good butcher is night and day. It's mind blowing.
They're more efficient with oxygen use, or it's just how our bodies are meant to run. But I feel smarter. Although the words are failing me now that I feel like I have to represent what I just said. That's been a big change. And also, yeah,
we got the gist of this. It says. See if we got some good comments. I reached my 6-month mark as well. The changes have been absolutely remarkable. When you say that this WOE makes you feel like more of a man, I had to smile because this WOE makes me feel like more of a woman in ways I can't really put into words. I still have more metabolic and hormonal healing to do, but I'm completely amazed at my progress. As an ex-vegan for 7 years, I agree with everything you've said. It's wild, man. Until you do it for yourself, you won't know. Highly recommended. Way of eating. Way of eating. Is that what it is? Yeah, women benefit dramatically from this kind of diet when it comes to hormones and their cycles. It's crazy.